Moody Bible College. We like the folks at Moody. They
We
do
sure
good
do.
stuff.
They're good friends of ours.
Now, Chad came in and handed both of us a business card. And I have to tell you, it's a rather unique business card. And it talks about Godonomics. And that's the name of the DVD series that Chad has available for churches and church studies. And he has a book coming out in July as well. But the card he gave us is similar to another card that we see. And this one's called the Servant Card. And it says, Government Master, spend like there's no tomorrow card. And then it shows the $16 trillion debt that's there. And it says valid through '09 ?
And the name on the card is I Am Enslaved.
Yeah.
Very, very, very clever. Chad, welcome to today's Issues.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, tell us about yourself and tell us about Godonomics. We know economics, but we don't know Godonomics.
Well, I'm a pastor of a church in Cincinnati, a church about 2,000. I have a 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter who's learning to drive. I have a 13-and-a-half son who is become a teenager. I took him to Sturgis last year together with my father. We had a great time. And then I have an adopted son who's 3-and-a-half, who we met his birth mother about 4 years ago now. She was going to abort him. And we were just privileged to, one, restart our family, which we had to think about. We're getting close to empty nest, and then we had to restart. But, boy, the chance to rescue a child, he's got special needs. He has blindness, autism. But, boy, what a joy he brings into our house. And it's just really revolutionized our family's ability to think about generosity in a new way. But Godonomics, it's actually the biblical case for free enterprise. Capitalism is not only a good idea, it's God's idea. And people aren't talking about it. Capitalism is the idea of free exchange of privately held goods and services. It's the underpinning of what God talked about. The Ten Commandments talks about private property 20% of the time. Do not steal somebody else's property. The Bible talks about the role of government. The Bible talks about business. It talks about using your talents and skills to bless other people. So about 5 years ago, folks were asking, does God have anything to say about deficit spending, about what our government is doing? Does the Bible address these things as well as my personal life? And I said, it sure does. We built a series called Godonomics. It was originally a church sermon series. What would God say to Adam Smith, to John Keynes, to Karl Marx, to Alan Greenspan, and to the IRS? And it was so revolutionary in our church that we went in studio and turned it into a DVD series that uses churches and homeschools and families and Tea Party groups and 912 groups as well.
Okay, I just got to ask you, out of that list, what would God say to Karl Marx?
What God say to Karl Marx is stop stealing other people's liberty. I actually love what his mom said. Karl Marx's mother was quoted by a historian saying she wished he had accumulated more capital instead of talking about it. It does not work. It doesn't work because it rewards the sluggard and it punishes the ant. It goes against that Galatians 6:8 principle that says you reap what you sow. Karl Marx promised liberty, but what he really did is enslave people by allowing government to take precedent over individual rights.
Is there any place in the world where Marxism has been tried and it actually has worked?
Well, in people's minds. That's the one place it has continually worked, and common sense and biblical mandate and evidence and common sense. And I think that's what Godonomics really is. It's common sense, back when there used to be such a thing.
Yeah.
Well, in one of the things that you have here, one of the sessions of the DVD series, it talks about liberty, prosperity, and. What's the and?
Well, generosity.
And generosity.
In Proverbs 31, this is where I got the idea. I was in a Bible study in Proverbs 31 and said, what is God's view of how economics should work, personal, family, and national? And it says, here's how it works. A young businesswoman, well, she might be young, she considers a field. Why would she consider a field? Why not buy any field? She's got to see if the field will produce. That's how economics begin. We've built our economy as a nation for the last 50 years on consuming, not production. And then it says she actually discerned her merchandise was good. Why not sell anything? Because price and quality, you have to focus on other people in free enterprise. And if the price and quality isn't right, people won't buy. And then it says, get ready for this, she profits. Yeah. It actually says the word profits as if it's a good thing.
Right.
Now, again, if you're listening to anyone in a Bible study these days, they know enough of the Bible to be dangerous, and they would think that profiting's bad. But profiting is good. God celebrates that. But the very next thing she says is, she discerns her merchandise is good, she profits, and she extends her hand to the poor. How are we going to help the poor and the needy? Josephus said, historically, no one in the Roman Empire gave anything to anybody. The Christian ethic of generosity came along and turned the world upside down. But you can't give away money you don't have. You got to produce and profit so you can be generous.
Chad, first of all, that's terrific. Okay, but let me just ask a question. I think I think that say this the right way. I think the prevailing view is, among many evangelicals, is we really shouldn't even be talking about economics, that we should be talking about spiritual matters, and that the Bible really doesn't lay out that the gospel is equally compatible with free market capitalism or Marxism or socialism, and that pastors shouldn't even be touching a topic like this. What do you say?
Well, I understand the fear. You know, I don't believe God is an elephant, and I don't believe God is a donkey, but he is a lion. And as a lion, he roars timeless principles. And so why should you care about economics? Well, if you care about the price of food, if you care about your mortgage, if you care about the devaluing of your dollar, if you care about the poor whose dollars are getting less and less value, 97% devalued in 100 years, therefore they can't afford things. Or think of it this way. If every $3 in your wallet right now turned into $100, what could you do? How much more generous could you be? How much more helpful could you be? How much more self-reliant could you be? See, economics sounds big and ethereal, and it must be so complicated, but it's not. It's producing, profiting, saving, investing, spending, and giving to others. The opposite is, and here's why you should care about it, because when you consume but don't produce, you borrow. There's only 3 ways you borrow. 3 ways governments borrow. They tax the producer, which means you have less money to provide jobs. Why is the rate of unemployment so high? It's because you ought to care about economics. Or we inflate the currency. The Bible speaks clearly about sound money, and we can get into that if you want. Or you enslave yourself to debt. Well, not only do people do that, I walk with folks who are in debt. I see the pressure on their marriage. I see the pressure on their life. But at a macro level, I see the pressure on our economy right now. Why do we have so much unemployment? Because we're 180 degrees from what God proclaimed in the Bible.
We're talking with Chad Hovind. He's the author of Godonomics, a book that's coming out, a DVD series that's already out. Chad, tell us, where can we find you on the internet? Where can we find Godonomics?
Yeah, go to www.godonomics.com. There you can watch 2 sessions for free, 30 minutes on What Would God Say to Adam Smith, the father of modern capitalism, and the other session, What Would God Say to Karl Marx. It is fun, it is hilarious, and yet you're going to learn an awful lot too.
And we better spell Godonomics just to make sure. Godonomics, right?
Yes.
Godonomics.
That was easy for you to say.
No, it really wasn't. But Godonomics.com, and they can find the full information there.
Yeah, Godonomics right there, and you can see some nice folks who've said some nice things about me. Mike Huckabee's endorsed Godonomics, as well as Glenn Beck, who invited me to speak down at Restoring Love last July to speak about the biblical case for free enterprise.